Here we go. What is up, Finn fans? We are here. There's 3 games left in the season. The Miami Dolphins are sitting at 10-4. Now, we got a lot to talk about in this video. And I did a lot of research, a lot of in-depth analysis. I don't know what I'm saying. But if I were to tell you before the season started, which I kind of did, go back and look at when the season's over, maybe that last recap video after the Bills game, I'll compare my record prediction to what happened. I've been pretty decent. I've been close a few games for the past couple of years. But if I were to start, say, going into Christmas Eve, the Dolphins would be 10-4, 2 games into the first place, and sitting comfortably in the number 2 seed. I'm pretty sure you'd be pretty happy about that, regardless of the narratives that are surrounding the Miami Dolphins right now with can't beat winning teams and Tua can't do. Just add to the list of things that Tua can't do, and then he proves that he can do, and then they just add another thing to the list. Tua can't throw deep. Crap, he's throwing deep. Tua can't throw outside the numbers. Okay, that was outside the numbers. Tua can't win or is productive without Tyreek Hill. Yeah, crap, he did that. Tua can't. Regardless of all that stuff, the Miami Dolphins are sitting in a very good position. But they got to take care of business. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to break down the preview of the Miami Dolphins hosting the Dallas Cowboys. And without any more of me rambling on, I do apologize, though. I'm recording this Thursday night. My Friday is jam-packed. I got a special video planned for you guys for Saturday that I'm recording Friday. And then I have the Dolphins Roundtable Friday night. And then it's Christmas, so I'm going to be shopping. And it's just, I got so much. So I do apologize. I don't have like final injury report news because that's literally what we're jumping into right now. So I do apologize for that. But my day is just jam-packed, so I had to do this tonight before. So we're going to look at the Dallas Cowboys injury report. It's not crazy bad, but their did not practice is kind of jarring. So Jonathan Hankins, their defensive tackle, he didn't practice for 2 days, but the biggest thing is Zach Martin has a thigh injury. He didn't practice for 2 days, and Tyron Smith has a back injury. He didn't practice for 2 days. Now, depending what happens today will be interesting, and obviously come Sunday, we'll know more when they go out there and try to do some things. But having their 2 offensive linemen banged up is going to hurt them a little bit. Limited their running back Dowell. Malik Hooker went from did not practice to limited. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on that situation. Outside of that, they have their defensive end and Pollard and their tackle. Full participants, nothing to see there. Then you have the Miami Dolphins, and obviously we're all going to be keeping an eye up. Cut it off. Actually, I can cut it off because Lester Cotton and Deshaun Elliott are full participants. They'll be fine, so we can have it right here. I'm still Wilsoning it, but our only do not practices of Thursday are Robert Hunt, Austin Jackson, and Raheem Mostert. Now, Raheem Mostert did not practice. I'm not worried about. He will play. He's probably, it's just a vet rest. He's probably not going to. He probably practiced today and everything's fine. Robert Hunt and Austin Jackson is huge. If they can somehow practice on Friday in a limited basis and hopefully get ready, especially Robert Hunt with his hamstring injury that has been nagging him, and they can play for Sunday, meaning we'll have Toronto Armstead, Liam Eichenberg at center, and then we'll have Robert Hunt back and Austin Jackson, essentially only missing 2 of our starting offensive linemen. That would be huge. So we'll keep an eye on that whole situation. Devon Achane and Teron Smith. I was going to say Teron Armstead went from do not practice to limited. Liam Eichenberg was limited. Tyreek Hill went from did not practice to limited, started practicing. Same thing with Xavier Howard. I'm hearing good things about those 2 playing. And then you have Kader Kohu, Emmanuel Ogbah, Cam Smith, Durham Smythe, and Thor not limiting. And then The ones I cut off are, Lester Cotton and Deshaun Elliott. So the signs are pointing towards and good for Tyreek and Xavier Howard playing. Now, let's hope that stays that way. Let's hope they continue. Hopefully on Friday, today's injury report, and I'll post it in the community tab. Being that again, I'm going to be crazy busy today, so go to the community tab on the main page, and I'll post the injury report when it comes out. Hopefully they go, maybe they go a little bit full, some of these guys, and we don't have to worry. But what I want to see is Robert Hunt and Austin Jackson going from do not practice to limited, and hopefully trending towards playing, because we need all the offensive line help we can get. Even though with Austin Jackson, I am comfortable with Kendall Lamb playing right tackle, because Kendall Lamb is, a really good tackle that we have. So I'm okay with that. It's, Cotton and, Jones on the inside kind of worry me a little bit with the pressure coming up front. But that is your injury report. Now we're going to look at the breakdown. We're going to start with the Dolphins defense versus the Cowboys offense. And you see here the Dolphins defense has been playing really well. They have now the fifth total defense, 10th in passing, 4th in rushing, 14th scoring defense, 2nd in sacks, 48 sacks. Playing the Jets last week definitely boosted those numbers. 11th in third down and 9th in takeaways. That has jumped up, especially with Steelers' interception and then the fumbles we had last week, and the 2 interceptions with Brandon Jones really helped that. And then you look at the Cowboys offense. They're 6th total offense, 6th in passing, 12th in rushing, 2nd in scoring, 10th in sacks allowed. So again, but they might not have 2 of their offensive linemen. 2nd and third down offense, and 1st in giveaways. They don't give the ball away a lot, but you're facing a defense who likes to take the ball away a lot. And then when we flip it, the Dolphins offense versus the Cowboys defense, a lot of ones for the Dolphins offense. Number 1 total offense, number 1 in passing, 4th in rushing, number 1 in scoring, 3rd in sacks allowed, only allowing 26 sacks. And that is, again, crazy with the amount of injuries, the amount of rotations we've had on that offensive line. Again, it's a nice trifecta of things, with guys stepping up, with Butch Berry helping those guys step up, and with Tua having very good pocket presence. Third down offense, 9th in the NFL, very good. And giveaways, 18th. Got to do a little bit better there. Have been of late, but got to keep that up. Facing a defense that is 6th total defense, 4th in passing, 19th in rushing. I'm going to talk about that. 19th rushing, 5th in scoring, 11th in sacks, generating 40 sacks on the season, 17th in third downs, and 12th in takeaways. They don't get a lot of turnovers. Nope, I'm dumb. They do get a lot of turnovers. Top 15. It's not top 10, but it's still pretty good. So again, you look at that, and I'm going to talk about it, but the weakness on their defense is their rush defense. I'm going to talk about that. But, of course, we have to get to the PFF of things. Schplow. And we're looking at the Dolphins' offense versus their defense. Again, that middle worries me. I was telling you guys that with Teron Armstead and Jackson, if he can play. If we could plug in Robert Hunt here, I would feel much more comfortable. But the interior being worrying me, especially going Trevor Lawrence and Parsons, if they do have this dual threat on the one side against our weak side, is going to worry me. But you got Waddle, Tyreek Hill. You got your 1 and 3, Durham Smythe, Braxton Berrios. Even Craig Kraft doing his thing. Tua, 4th quarterback. Raheem Mostert, 4th running back. Facing a defense that Bland is a good corner. What do you have, like 5 pick sixes back to back to back? Not in the game, but you know what I'm saying? I think that was it. But Gilmore doesn't really scare me. Wilson, this side of their defensive line is not bad, but doesn't really scare me here. I think they have weaknesses in their defense that the Dolphins can take advantage of, especially if Tyreek Hill plays, and especially at home with the motions. The motions will mess with this defense. And playing at home, being able to control the crowd noise, being able for Tua Tagovailoa to snap the ball when he wants to on the motions is going to be huge. And I will talk about that. And then we flip over to defense here. And this Dolphin defense, Jalen Ramsey, Elliott, Javon Holland, Duke Riley playing really well. David Long Jr., a top run-stopping linebacker. Bradley Chubb is up there. AVG, Thor is up there. You got the interior guys doing really well. Xavier Howard's got low numbers, but I'm comfortable with him. I think Ramsey should just follow CeeDee Lamb throughout the whole game. But again, you look at their offensive line. They might not have Martin, and they might not have Smith. And I think that will really hurt them. You got Dak Prescott, number 2 quarterback. Pollard, number 22nd quarterback. Ferguson, their tight ends. We got to worry about that. You know how we are with covering tight ends. But to me, CeeDee Lamb and stopping the run is important. But again, if they don't have Tyron Smith and if they don't have Martin, that can very benefit the Dolphins, especially with Christian Wilkins coming up the middle. But Badaz is a good center. So don't, take this lightly. But I think this is going to be a battle. 100% is going to be a battle. And that being said, we're going to talk about the 5 things that the Miami Dolphins need to do to beat this Dallas Cowboys team. Now, this game is so big. These next 3 games are huge. The Miami Dolphins playoff starts now. That I was like, 5 things. Screw the 5 things. I'm just going to talk about everything. And then I was like, no, I'm superstitious. I got to do the 5 things. I've been doing it all season. I got to do the 5 things. But I'm still going to talk about a lot of things after the 5 things. But here are the 5 things again. These aren't from most important to least important. This is just me doing my research on the opponent. And these things popped in my head and I wrote them down. Number 1, you got to stop the run. And I did research on this. And I looked at their away games that they lost. And I looked at how they rushed against those teams that they lost to on the road. The Buffalo Bills held them to 52 yards. The Philadelphia Eagles held them to 51. Pollard, that is. It was under 100 total. Philly, 51 yards for Pollard. San Francisco, 24 yards for Pollard. The only team that they lost to on the road that they had over 200 team rushing yards was the Cardinals, and Pollard had 122 yards. Outside of that, Pollard didn't break 53 yards rushing. Got to stop the run, make them one-dimensional. You know what they're going to try to do, and you can have your guys go after them, especially Bradley Chubb, especially Thor, all those guys in the middle. Have them feast and make it a one-dimensional. I didn't even pop it up. Make it a one-dimensional offense. You got to stop the run. Don't let them run all over you. Can't do it. Not going to do it. Number 2 thing on my list, you have to run the ball. If we're stopping the run, we got to run the ball. A lot of that coincides with Mike McDaniel, but we saw on Hard Knocks, he owned up to his mistakes and he started to run the ball more. Now, if you look at what the Buffalo Bills did, right? Crappy weather, it was raining. They ran that ball down Dallas's throat. He had like 120 plus rushing yards. His receipt, it was Cook's game. It was his offense. They barely threw the ball. Josh Allen, 90-something yards passing. He ran it as well. You got to run the ball. And running the ball takes away the pass rush because now they have to worry about going after the running game. Against the Cardinals, the Dallas defense only had 2 sacks. Against the 49ers, they only had 1 sack. Against the Eagles, they only had 3 sacks. And against Buffalo, they only had 1 sack. And of those games, the Cardinals game was the only game that Micah Parsons had a sack. So you see, when you run the ball and you get big run production. Now, the 49ers game is the only game that it was a combination of run production. It wasn't just one guy going off. Outside of that, Cardinals, Eagles, and Buffalo, they had 100-yard rushers. 2 sacks, 1 sack, 3 sacks, 1 sack. That really will help the offensive line if we can run the ball. Gotta run the ball there. Number 3 thing on my list, you have to continue the dominant defense. Since week 4, and this is big, because a lot of times when we look at this defense and how dominant they were, you're like, well, we played crap teams. And for the most part, we played crap teams. But since week 4, and this is before Jalen Ramsey came back. Jalen Ramsey came back on week 8. So since week 4, the Miami Dolphins are first in scoring, first in total defense, first in yards per play, first in sacks, 3rd rush defense, 4th third down defense, and 6th pass defense. We played the likes of the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. And with the Kansas City Chiefs, we held them. Patrick Mahomes, we held them under. Like their total offense was 267 yards. 93 rushing yards, 174 passing yards, and we forced a turnover on them. The defense was doing their thing. We need that continuation. We need to make Dak Prescott uncomfortable. We need to force them to turn the ball over, and we need to stop the run. Those are huge in this type of game. Those are huge in playoff games. And this is kind of the start of a playoff game, being the fact that this is a playoff team. Next week will be a playoff team. Buffalo, we can make them not a playoff team. Got to continue the dominant defense. The number 4 thing on my list, no mistakes. If you're playing playoff football, if you're in the playoffs, you cannot make mistakes. You cannot turn the ball over. You cannot give the opposing offense more opportunity. Or if your defense is playing dominant, you cannot give the opponents points by having their defense score. You cannot turn the ball over. You cannot have penalty killing drives, which we did last week. We were blowing them out of the water, the Jets. We could have had a higher score if it wasn't for, I think it was in the third quarter, before Tua got taken out because we were just demolishing them. We had 2 runs, one from Devon Achane, one from Raheem Mostert, brought back on holding penalties and then offside penalties. And it's like a penalty after a penalty would just, they're drive killers. You could have short down and distances. You can have a big play production. Then you have a dumb penalty, whether it's Julian Hill holding the ball, whether it's offsides, whether it's illegal motion, whether it's whatever, kills drives. And we can't have that. We can't have a Kansas City Chief moment where we potentially had a game-winning touchdown and it comes back because of offsides. And we had that on Chosen. So, no mistakes. Got to play mistake-free football. And the final thing that the Dolphins need to do, we need that elite Tua. We need that elite Tua. I said in the beginning of the video, they have this laundry list. You heard Shannon Sharp talking nonsense, and even the Jets, ex-Jet Woody, was defending Tua. And these guys, regardless of what he says, regardless of what he does on the field, will come up with a new narrative. Like he said, he's taking receipts. People don't like that he said that. Why does it bother you so much? It doesn't bother him. But he's remembering. He's remembering. And good. Motivate you. Keep doing good. Keep shutting down the narratives. Can't throw the deep ball. Can't throw outside. Can't evade pressure. Crumbles in the pocket. Not mobile. Can't do well without Tyreek. Needs everything perfect around him. It's like all of these narratives he's crushing. Needs everything perfect around him. The man never had a healthy offensive line all year. Someone is always injured on that offensive line. You look at the Denver Broncos game, and Jalen Waddle was not healthy for that game. It's like he needs this, needs that. He can't do this, can't do that, never does this, never does that. And he just keeps doing it. So we need that from him because this is another narrative. He can't win December football games. Even though right now the Dolphins are 2-1 in December. Beat Washington December 3rd. Lost to Tennessee December 11th. Just beat the Jets December 17th. 2-1 in December. Should be 3-0 in December, but again, I'm moving on from that. He needs to shut down the narratives. These next 2 games are games where he can do that. Because people don't look in these situations, in these games, people don't look at it as team collapse. They look at it as quarterback collapse for certain quarterbacks. Look at the Buffalo Bills game his rookie year. It doesn't matter that the defense did whatever the defense did. It was all on Tua because he sucked and he threw interceptions, and not about the fact that we went down very quickly in points. You look at the Tennessee game. He was bad in that game. But the game plan, no one looks at that. No one looks at all the aspects of it. It's just Tua, which he was bad in. This is where he needs to do it. These games are going to determine the Dolphins' season. These games are going to determine if we make the playoffs, which is sad to say, if we win the division, and if we get the number 1 seed. This is where Tua shuts the people up. This is where Tua takes his receipts and shoves it down people's throat. We need the elite Tua. So that being said, let me tell you what I think is going to happen in this game. So, Dallas Cowboys versus the Miami Dolphins. People are calling it the Fraud Bowl because they don't understand how football works. And all they see is, oh, they didn't beat any good teams, so they suck. Even though every one of those fan bases that say that are part of teams that they wish their team was 10-4. They wish their team was in the position that the Dallas Cowboys and the Miami Dolphins are. It's like the Jet fans, the Patriot fans, even the Bill fans that are sitting there looking up 2 games behind us, hoping and praying that we fall apart in these next 2 games so they can come and scavenge their way out of second place and take first place back. That's what they want. They couldn't do it themselves because they lost to the bad teams. They lost to the Denver Broncos. They lost to all these teams that they should have beaten. But since they couldn't and they didn't, they now have to push a dumb narrative on everyone else because they couldn't take care of their own business like the Dolphins did. That being said, people call it the fraud ball. People are saying how the Dallas Cowboys play. Now, I looked up this stuff, and it's incredibly interesting. So the Dallas Cowboys are a completely different team away than they are home. Completely different. The Dallas Cowboys home average 4.4 touchdowns a game, 26 first downs, 431.7 offensive yards. They hold their opponents to 289.4 offensive yards, and they convert 53.6% of their third downs. That's pretty good. On the road, they score an average of 2.4 touchdowns. That is an average of 2 less touchdowns a game on the road. 19.4 first downs. That is more than 7 first downs less on the road. They score their offense 304.6 yards of offense on the road. That is 127, give or take. Yeah, 27 yards less on the road versus home. They hold their opponents to 289.1 yards, which isn't much. It's 10 yards more. But their third down production goes down 10% to 43.3%. So it is a huge drastic difference from the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry's world to the Dallas Cowboys on the road. That also being said, you look at the Miami Dolphins away versus home. The Miami Dolphins away, 3.4 touchdowns per game, 20.9 first downs, 379.3 offensive yards, holding their opponent to 308.7 offensive yards, and converting 44.4 third downs. Home, the Miami Dolphins average 4.6 touchdowns per game. The discrepancy there is only 1.2 touchdowns. 22.3 first downs. That discrepancy is only 0.1 something. But the yards, 448.9 offensive yards. They hold their opponents to 278.1 offensive yards, but they convert less third downs at home, 39.8 third downs. Maybe that's because they don't really get to the third downs when they're home. But the Dolphins are dominant at home, and the Dallas Cowboys struggle on the road. Now, a lot of people are looking at this game and saying the Dallas Cowboys are going to be pissed because of what the Bills did to them, and they're going to take it out on the Dolphins. We'll see. Now, I don't think the Dolphins really are going to sit back and be like, oh, here comes the Dallas Cowboys. They're pissed about what the Buffalo Bills did to them. I think the Dolphins realize the situation they're in. I think the Dolphins are still pissed about that Tennessee game, and they're home. That is the biggest thing I liked about this stretch. This, 1 to 5 game stretch is 4 of those games are home. Huge. Now, it's not 425, so the sun will be going down, and you don't got to deal with the sun, but they're home. I got the Dolphins winning this one 28-24. Now, I think it's going to be close. I think the defense will make stops when they need to. The Cowboys will still score. The Cowboys still have a very good offense, and CeeDee Lamb and Pollard and Cooks and all those guys, Gallup. But I think the Dolphins will win this one. I think they'll pull it off. I think they will make a stop when they need to, and I think they'll victory formation out of it. I think they win by 4, 28-24. Comment below. Let me know what you guys think. We got to take care of business. I talk to you every week about playoff scenarios, who we should root for, who we should root against, yada, yada. But in the end, we just got to win. If the Miami Dolphins win the next 3 games, they get the number 1 seed. It's that plain and simple. Take care of business, beat 3 playoff teams, and show the world who you are, and then you get a first round bye, and the playoffs run through Miami. But that's what I got for you guys. I will see you tomorrow. I have a video planned for you guys tomorrow, Saturday, and then I will see you guys, I think, at halftime with the Cowboys game. I'm not going to be live streaming at the beginning of the game. I'll probably start live streaming at like 5:30-ish because I'll be spending time with my family, but I still want to hang out and watch the second half of the game with you guys. So I will be doing that. But other than that, like usual, stay classy. Fins up.